All right, everyone. Welcome to Mind, Body, Spirit Summit. I am here with Heather Askinose and Timmi Jandro from Energy Muse. And I'm so excited to interview these guys. They are our first interview for the summit. So I'm so happy that they said yes. And we're going to get more into their recent book, Crystal Muse, but I am obsessed with it. So I'm so glad that we get to interview them. First, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of an intro. So we have Heather Askinose is a leading influencer on the power of crystals, feng shui, and holistic healing. For over 25 years, she's had the privilege of studying with the best healers from all over the world who have passed down ancient teachings on how to utilize energy technology. In 2000, Heather co-founded Energy Muse with business partner Timmi Jandro. Energy Muse is a conscious lifestyle brand providing tools of empowerment, inspiration, and hope in the tangible form of jewelry and crystals. Together, Heather and Timmi are helping people reconnect with the energy of the earth to align with their highest self, realize their true calling, and tap into their own personal magnificence. You can visit them online at energymuse.com. Okay, so welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
You're
Glad
welcome.
to be here.
Of course. So the first thing, I would love to hear about you guys' history together because I love the story that you guys have been friends forever. And so how did you guys originally meet, and how have you continued your relation and your friendship for so long?
Do you want the clean version? I'm just kidding.
Whatever version.
Okay,
Great.
all right. No, I'm just kidding. Heather and I have actually been friends for over 4 decades. So we started out our journey in elementary school. We were next door neighbors, and we have been on this journey together. We've always had different interests, but for whatever reason, I guess there was a bigger plan up there that led us to this current journey of working together and having our business for almost 17 years, which, as a lot of people might know, being in business is tough to begin with. Mm-hmm. And then being in business with one of your best friends can be tougher. Totally. But we really have made it work.
Yeah.
We're not going to lie. There's been times where it's been more challenging than others. But I think because we know each other so well, we can always tap back into that trust factor that no matter what, if things are going awry, we have each other's back. We just have to work through it. Right. And so we've been able to do that. Thank goodness.
Totally. That's awesome. Okay. So I want to ask the question, for Heather more specifically. I know you touch on this in your book, but I'm going to assume that a lot of our listeners may have not read your book yet. So how did you find yourself landing in this crystal energy spiritual world? What catapulted you into that?
Okay, so what happened was, it wasn't a plan that I ever in a million years thought I would be doing. I was selling high-end real estate at the time in Manhattan Beach. Mm-hmm. And what happened was, one of my clients was the CFO of a Fortune 500 company, and he came into town from Brazil, and he said, hey, I want to buy a house, but it has to have good feng shui. Mm-hmm. Now, this was over 25 years ago. And I'm like, feng what? Hey, what are you even talking about? I don't even know what that is. And he explained it to me. I ended up going to a class. I was in a class with all these men, and I was learning mathematical calculations. But I went through this because I wanted to sell him real estate, and he was going to buy a lot of it. So what happened was, that introduced me to the world of energy. I knew nothing about any of this stuff. And in the pursuit through that time period, feng shuiing houses, selling real estate, I stumbled upon a store that had crystals in it one day. Now, it was like 25 years ago. So it had candles and some soaps. And for me, looking in the window at that store, I'm like, oh my God, what's going on in there? This is weird. Whoa, but it was captivating. I went in, I picked up a crystal. I said, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. It had me at the sparkle. Right. It was so pretty. I was in. I'm like, I have to have 20 more of these because they're so pretty and they make me so happy. So I wish I could say it was this really deep, intellectual, spiritual, but it was really more about, it was pretty and I liked it and it made me happy. And that's really sparkle. Where it started. It was, the sparkle had me. So that's really, I wish it could be more than that, but through the years, it's become more than that. But that's how it started. Seriously, I knew nothing. But all I knew is that I liked it, and it was pretty, and it made me happy.
Yes.
And to this day, it's still good enough. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think a lot of people actually find their way, like, I've had patients that have been like, I was at TJ Maxx Home Goods and found this, like, amethyst. I mean, who even knows where it's from? But they, like, love it, and they like how it makes them feel. And they buy it and bring it into their home.
That's the perfect way to work with crystals. Exactly. When you trust yourself and you're like, you know what? I don't need anyone to tell me anything. I just like it.
Right.
That's it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, Timmi, I'd love to hear from you. At what point did you guys join forces, and what, like, made you make that decision?
Well, I had been in the garment industry for over 15 years, and I was traveling up a storm, just completely burnt out. It was really lucrative. I loved it for the time that I was in it, but I was just going like, what is this? What is my purpose in this business? What is it feeding my soul? I just felt like I was becoming hardened, and I did not like what I was becoming at all. And so, as Heather was saying, she was getting into all of this energy studying and research and work in feng shui. And along her path, she wanted to help people understand feng shui very easily, which was coming up with the necklace, which is what started our company, called Prosperity. 3 Chinese coins tied with red string with jade brings you prosperity. So she made up 10, said, Timmi, will you be one of the 10 to try this out? All of us came back with a story like, wow, this was amazing. We felt something. I mean, I didn't know what to expect because, again, I wasn't studying what she was studying. I'm like, you're studying what? And crystals do what? I had no idea.
Right.
But I felt something, and opportunities were coming my way. I had quit the garment industry. I was kind of in a in-between time period. And I'm like, you know what? I know how to get these made. If I'm feeling something and I know nothing about what this is supposed to do, there's a lot of other people that could benefit from this. Let's join forces. And we did. That was as easy as it was. And we were selling these necklaces out of the trunks of our car on the streets of Manhattan Beach, where we both grew up. And we were going to all of these celebrity parties, and we were like doing these energy deals in the back of the parties because people are like, we need prosperity. And it was exciting and fun until we had to go, oh my gosh, we've got to go into business. We're really going to be in business. This was a hobby.
Right. Totally. Now, do you guys still make that same prosperity necklace?
We do. We sure do.
That was my question when I was reading your book. Everyone's going to order it now. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, now I want to kind of get into a part of the book. So here's your book. Yeah. I love it. I was thinking today, I was like, how did I even find out about this book? And I'm pretty sure it was from, I follow the Almost 30 podcast.
Oh, we love them. Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it's from that. But I remember it was just when I like saw the cover and I was like, done. Amazon Prime. Here it is. And then I was like, I have to have these ladies on our summit. So it's so perfect. But I wanted to touch on this part in the beginning when you talk about the aha moment with crystals, that I think this would ring true to a lot of our listeners, where you talk about how you say, being on any spiritual path is not for the faint of heart. Some days it's easier to just avoid the internal struggle that comes with it, and sometimes it can be lonely. I would love for you guys to talk about that, like in your own spiritual journeys, about that feeling of loneliness, because it's so common for people. So if you guys could give an example of how you might have felt that way, lonely in like the spirituality world, and what's helped you overcome those feelings of loneliness.
Well, you know, for me, I didn't grow up Catholic, but I converted to Catholicism when I got married, and I got married at a very young age, which is also in the book, at 22. And it was a bit of a struggle for me to go, how can I be working with crystals and then have this religious dogma that I also was a part of? And what I learned through this journey very early on is that there's nothing religious about crystals. This is all about just working with the energy of the earth to wear it, put it on your body, have it in your home to get a result. And, you know, when you're doing things, we always say we were the trailblazers of our time, because a lot of people, especially women, were not talking about crystals. So the doors were shut shut. We don't know. We don't want to buy your line. Why would we want to work with crystals? This makes no sense to us.
Right.
We were before our time, and Heather is really like that vision. And I think because of her background and her research, she is always a little bit ahead of the time, and I help bring things to fruition. So can that get lonely when no one's believing in what you're so passionate about? Absolutely.
Totally. Yeah. And if you guys have had those feelings of loneliness, like you're kind of isolated in your little crystal energy world, and like some people don't get it, right, or understand it, what has helped you kind of curb that feeling of loneliness or getting you out of that place?
Well, I mean, for me, this is Heather. Definitely, I think, between both of us, Timmi is highly religious. And I think that is a good balance with us, because I'm somebody who studies many religion. And so my belief system is more that there's a common theme with all religions that comes to, treat other people as you want to be treated and love thy neighbor in love, Right. And so for me, when we very first started, being where we grow up and having this, at that time period, crystals are the work of the devil, and you're idolizing something other than God. And and for me, I was like, wait, no, I'm just holding on to a crystal. Right. This is our earth. How did this become a religious conversation? Like, I couldn't even get my head around that. And I still can't. So the thing is that I always looked at it as this earth tool, a tool like juicing or yoga or something that helped us hold on to something, because I was like, I need something to hold on to help me get grounded. Right. And when it became a religious conversation, I, for one, kind of went within, because I didn't know how to I didn't know that. And part of the very first part of our business, at least for me, was trying to justify the science and in Revelations 21:12, right. God, the lines of the gates of heaven were lined with 21, these stones. Right. And I'm trying to, and then for a while, and I would say only until after this book came out, it's kind of like, you know what, and I don't mean this I mean this in a completely humble way, but like, either people are going to get it or they don't. Like, my mission here is not to convert, not to preach, not to whatever. I'm as a healer, as a teacher, as somebody on the path, as a advocate of the earth, whatever you want to. Right. I'm just here to share the information. How anyone interprets it or puts their own judgment or perspective is their journey. Mm-hmm. But the core energy of what we're doing is how to educate people to tap into what's below their feet as a tool, mm-hmm. not as something bigger than their own personal belief system. Right. And I feel like that's what's really, if anything, I want to get out more, because that stops so many people from really tapping into this, because they make it about this religion, magical, paradigm that happened like hundreds of years ago. And it's like, are we still talking about that in 2018? Right. I mean, seriously?
Yeah.
So I can't even, and doing this over 25 years, I could say now I don't care.
Right. Totally.
I don't know if I would have said that a year ago, because it still mattered. Right. And it still does matter, but I'm more open to everyone's got their vibe,
Totally.
Do it.
And the folks, like your tribe that aligns with your message, are going to find you.
Exactly.
And the other people won't. But
and God bless to that. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Totally.
So I don't know if that answers your loneliness question, but there were lonely times when you feel like you don't fit in.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
And what I realized is that I probably will never fit in. And actually, I kind of like that part.
Right. Yeah, totally. Well, and it makes sense, because if you're always in the space of like resistance and trying to convince people or prove, what you believe, that's never going to feel good. Versus just being in your authentic self, and your vibe attracts your tribe, right? So,
and the spiritual journey, at least for me, is that I look at it like an onion. The more I do work and I'm like, wow, I'm really getting somewhere, I'm so proud of myself, I realize there's another layer of the onion that needs to come off. Yep. Yep. So right when I'm starting to feel really like, man, I got this, I am jamming, I do the bump, I'm getting along with my teenager, which is like a whole layer of an onion there. Yep. So what my thing is that it's like, this journey will take you where you want to go. If you want to keep it surface, keep it surface. If you want to go deeper, there's many, many layers to go into.
Totally. Absolutely.
But I think what feels so good now is that maybe this trailblazing that Heather and I endured it's so open and out there now that this is like normal. Yeah. So we maybe don't have to feel so lonely out there. Like there's other people, like you said, the tribes that are talking about it.
Totally.
So maybe we helped pave the way. That makes us feel good for others to be here.
Absolutely. I mean, even like I'll have friends over to my home that are totally like, I mean, I'm a holistic doctor. I do mind body work. Like, I'm in the woo-woo, okay? But I have friends that will come over that don't really get it. They're like, she's a chiropractor, whatever. And I have, like, crystals and stuff all over my house. And they'll be like, oh, that's really cool. Where'd you get that from? You know, like, people are drawn. It's not as weird. They're not like, why do you have that pyramid weird thing by your TV? Yeah. You know? So I think it's just so much more out there, and people are like, it's the pretty factor, right? But even if they don't realize it, I think they feel the energy shift when they're around that stuff. Totally. Okay. I'd love to segue a little bit into some business stuff, because I know we will have a lot of people listening that have their own businesses, are currently running their own businesses, are thinking about starting a business or have a side business. So it'll be really helpful to have you guys' input. I'd love for you to take me through the process of like the progression of your business. I know you started selling your necklaces out of your car on the beach. And were there any certain pinpoints that helped you like elevate to the next level?
Well, you know, at the time, because I was doing feng shui and I had a lot of celebrity clients at the time, that helped because, but it was an interesting thing, which we shared this story in our book, but we kind of had it the opposite, where when we started, we were successful. Money was flying out of the sky. It was the easiest thing that ever happened to anyone. I mean, it was like Entrepreneur Magazine. People were calling like, whoa, what's going on? You guys are selling these beads and it's blowing up and blah, 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 blah. And then 2 years later, we had to figure out how to be in business because once again, you need new product, you have produce, there's numbers. And we hadn't prepared for that, not only business-wise, but mentally in the gratitude. We started taking it for granted. Oh, well, it's always going to be like this. Right. We're always. And when Timmi and I lost the gratitude, we lost the financial depth that we were coming from, that security level, and it all started to crumble down. And so for us, that's when our spiritual journey, or that's when the business of wellness began. Yes. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it happened so we didn't have that struggle when you very first started. We actually had it was probably like worse. Yeah. So we, totally. And, we didn't have time to have a business plan. We didn't do anything. It was happening so fast. We just trying to keep up. Totally. So so the work that normally happens with people happened 2 years into it.
Yeah. I mean, we often say we could probably write a story about how not to run a business. That would don't do what we did.
Which honestly, for many people, would probably be more beneficial.
Yeah,
right. Than someone just saying, "This is what I did." That might not work for everyone, but like to learn from your mistakes would be.
I think what we've realized, once again, this is in our money chapter of how can you be spiritual and still be financially successful?
Yes.
Because that's an interesting conversation. But what happened is when we lost our confidence in what we did, and we had our financial accountant saying, you guys are losing your ass. You're about to lose your business. You're really in debt. Like if I were you, I'd be really afraid. Right. When we listened to everybody else, we really weren't plummeting. But the moment we got back on track with energetically what we needed to do and how we needed to purge ourselves of our fears and all this. One thing, which is, once again is in the book, David Beckham ended up getting our jewelry, and his picture went viral, and literally our business changed overnight. But it changed because we got back into what we did and what we knew, which is how to shift and move energy. But before, when we weren't doing that, when we were in fear, and we didn't trust ourselves, and we listened to everybody else give us advice, and we didn't listen to our own advice, that's when we really were hitting the skids. So I guess for us, and even throughout the years, we've learned we always have to trust what we do know, listen to people that are wise, assess the information, but also remember, if you're successful in your business, you got there because there were things that you knew that you have to lead and continue to know and lead others with.
Right. Totally. So you guys start out, you're like skyrocketing, doing amazing. 2 years later, kind of crashes a little bit. What exactly did you guys do at that turning point to turn things around, to work through your stuff, to get back to gratitude?
Well, what we did a lot was blame at the beginning. We tried to point the finger at a lot of different people, and that was, ourselves. I think, the turning point of our relationship, because we got mad at each other. And so we went through all that, like the really like non-spiritual part, or if you look at it nowadays, the real spiritual part, because that's where the work is. The work is in the dirt, the dirty, grimy part, when you're like, you know what? I don't like this. But we were so financially in debt, we were stuck together. So it was one of those things together where, I mean, there was nowhere to go. I mean, there was only the way to get out. And so we had to pull our bootstrings on. We had to get over our egos. We had to get over our anger, and we had to use the crystals and do the work. And that's where our next line came out of, because how do you get out of debt? How do you get through your ego? And then a whole birthing of a new collection came out, and people started buying it, and we started rising again. But we needed to create new medicine that had
to go through the process.
And that's what happens with Energy Muse jewelry all the time. Most of the jewelry on our line is when we have gone through stuff. Like, I couldn't get pregnant. Well, I had to figure out what was the crystal component to help me break through that. Or Timmi would have something going on. What would be something going on in your life?
Just like with the throat, like not expressing my truth. And so Heather would often come up with something for that.
So
it's medicine.
Sometimes in your darkest days is when actually your biggest growth happens and where your miracle resides. And what we realized is that we're in this spiritual world. A lot of people talk about positivity and mantras and all this and that, but at the end of the day, it's in our shadow, in those dark places, and the other half of it is when we really find out who we are. And that's, if we pull from those shadows and bring them to the light, we really have a lot more to give and offer and be of service with.
I totally agree. I have a mentor that says, like, you have to break down to break through.
Exactly.
Like, there's no other way to do it.
Believe me, there's not. We've tried it.
And if you can view the breakdowns in that way, it's a totally different energy.
Well, and also, I think we need to be allowed, I'm speaking more for women, I'm on a really big women tangent these days, is that we as women, it's okay for us to break down and get mad and get angry and not keep it together, because I feel as a consciousness, we women we've closed our throats. We need to express. I'm not saying go like irate through the streets and go on ballistic tangents, but it's okay to lose it. It's okay to, and then come back, because why store it in our energy field? That's why we have girlfriends and we have people we could talk to, but we don't always need to keep it so calm, cool, and collected. At least in my personal opinion, that strategy for me has not helped me get to the real parts of myself.
And I believe that,
because that's a facade.
Totally. I mean, there's Candace Pert's work, Molecules of Emotion.
Totally, yes.
So all of that stuff, it's scientifically proven that it's stored on the protein receptors of our cells. Right?
It is.
So if we're not doing that work to help process that, eventually it comes out, right? And my belief is that basically any physical symptom is emotionally rooted.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's going to come out in some way, right? Whether it's a sprained ankle or a headache or low back pain or indigestion or cancer, right? It's going to manifest eventually if we keep that stuff in. So, and I think it's such a issue in society because there's a million reasons, but one of them, I believe, we see all these chronic diseases like skyrocketing. people don't have a space or feel safe or know how to process their stress and emotions.
Right.
Right. So it's all buried in. So,
I mean, even with like the jewelry that I wear, that we have shungite is black and selenite is white. It always is a constant reminder walking through the shadows to get to the light. You have to have both.
Yes.
It can't be one or the other.
Yes, totally.
And that's okay.
Absolutely. I love it. Okay. I'd love to hear from you guys. Circling back to the business thing, you mentioned how like you should write a book on things not to do to run a business too. What are like one or two things like that you would tell, let's say, new entrepreneurs starting on a business, tell them not to do?
Well, maybe think that you know it all. I mean, I think sometimes we felt like we understood a lot about the business, but as we got to different levels, as Heather was saying earlier, it's good to go to people that have maybe more information than you do and then assess that. So always be open to, like you had even said, going to a mentor, someone that can help you along the way. And I don't know that we always did that.
Yeah. And being in business in 2018, and, granted, we've been doing this 17 years, so that's a long time. Right. For me personally, and because I handle more of our marketing and our visual aspect of our company, is in today's world, you cannot get stuck. So if you think you've got your formula, don't get too attached to it, because if you want to be current and you want to be relevant, you've got to be flexible. So if anything, I feel like have a plan, but be flexible, because the world is changing so quick with how we communicate, with what the awakening, being stuck and being so connected to your plan that you're not flexible, you'll be left behind.
Totally.
In my opinion.
Yeah. Great. Okay. And I want to circle back. I have this marked and you already mentioned it, but when you're talking about in your Money Magnet chapter about how, and I think we've all kind of seen this a lot in like the world of spirituality and business, how for many people there seems to be this like underlying limited belief that you can't have a spiritual business and make money, right? Or have abundance and that's greedy or whatever the story might be. How did you guys kind of get past that or work through that you can have both, and actually therein you can affect so many more people and have a greater impact with spirituality, with more money?
Well, I think exactly that. It was a story that we were telling ourselves because that's what we believed.
Right.
But if we didn't get through that story and have a breakthrough, we weren't going to be able to continue to do the work that we knew was helping other people. Right. So we had to take that limitation and know, because we were struggling. We weren't making money.
Right.
And we weren't valuing our worth and the information and the products that we had. And I think once we did that and we made that shift, it was a worth that people then recognized and they were okay with.
Totally.
Well, and so on a core level, and I mean, I feel like, a lot of, it's a self-worth issue, really, at a core level. And it's like, you know what, am I worthy of this? Am I worthy to, some people sabotage themselves from success. There's a lot of ailments of why do we not get money? Money's energy. It's out there. But are we worthy of it? Do we think we deserve it?
Right.
And when we have these old traumas held within our chakras or in our energy beings or our fields, how do we break through that when we have this role that's playing through our neurology that we don't deserve it? So money is a big thing because it's all about, do you deserve having energy? What's the concept of receiving? Can you receive?
Right.
Ooh, that's intense for women because we're used to giving a lot, right? Totally. But receiving, bam, that's a girthy topic. Yep. So that was for us, and still is. I'm not going to, at least for me, I don't have that mastered yet. I'm still working on that one. Right. I don't know. You mastered on that one?
There's always a tweak that has to be mastered.
Timmi's master's just tweaking herself. We're lucky.
Some little bumps to smooth out.
Most people, with money, it's just a deserving. It's a self-worth, and that's kind of like when we shifted in that, it shifted our business.
Right. Totally. Well, and like you were touching on, Timmi, if you understand and value your worth, right? So I'm thinking of this, like it applies to you guys, of course, but especially for other practitioners, right? If they, let's say a massage therapist, if they're only in alignment to charge $30 for a session, right, they're going to attract clients that's what they value. Versus if they're an incredible therapist and their work is valued at $200 an hour because they're amazing. But if they're not in alignment with that, it's going to be really hard to attract those clients.
It'll be a struggle, right?
Right.
Yeah. But I think like what Heather was saying and what I was also implying is that it is a self-worth thing. You have to value what your product is, what information we were giving to people. And then we knew we were getting results with people. So we wanted to continue on that path. And the only way we could do it was at a certain value. And so we kept putting it back out there.
Totally.
After we broke through.
Yeah. And when you guys broke through, that was when you came up with like your money magnet ritual, correct?
Well, yeah. I mean, because for us, our modality has always been working with the crystals as a tool, not as anything bigger than that. But like, how can we work with this crystal to go within? How can we hold on to a piece of pyrite, look at it and go, hey, that looks like gold.
Right.
How can I bring the gold back in my life?
Right.
If you look at our book, there's a lot of simplicity to it. We really tried to keep it not so, at the end of the day, if people have to do 20 million things, you're not going to do it.
Right.
We wanted to keep it like, what is one thing you could do today to transform your life if you did it for 40 days?
Right.
And just do that for 3 minutes, you can change your life. But some people can't even find 3 minutes. And then you're like, well, if you can't commit to yourself for 3 minutes, then how can you possibly commit to money?
Yes.
Or receiving money?
Yes.
We're talking 3 minutes.
Right. Totally. I love where Tony Robbins talks about that all the time when he talks about his meditation practice. He's like, if you don't have 5 minutes, you don't have a life.
Right. Well, we like Tony Robbins because he's worn our jewelry for the last 14 years.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yay.
Yeah. I love how he says that. It's so just frank and true, though. Like, if you can't find 5 minutes a day for yourself, there's bigger issues than money or relationships or whatever you're trying to manifest.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So I want to go kind of delve deeper into crystals now. I know you guys talk about how you're really picky with where you source your crystals from. And I would love to know from you, the experts, how do you find the best quality, the stuff that you know is real? I know there's like fake stuff out there, right? Yeah. So what is your process with that?
Well, once again, we're still learning because I actually just recently learned, I had no idea about the fraudulence that's going on in the crystal market, as bad as it is. Mm-hmm. And that's a big concern because it sounds as if the market is getting pretty fraudulent out there.
Right.
And so the value of Timmi and I being in this business for 17 years, we've seen a lot of miners come and go. Mm-hmm. And being able to see crystals and seeing the striations and whatnot, it's easier to tell what's counterfeit and what's not counterfeit. Mm-hmm. But that's an eye that's been trained over a long period of time, and it's relationships that we have directly with miners. However, I really do think that for people that are buying crystals, there are a lot of reputable crystal companies out there, and I know people have their favorites. Sure. So trust that. But I think in our industry, it is a concern that everyone's starting to talk about because the counterfeits look so real.
Sure. So if some Joe Schmo wherever, do you recommend that people, I mean, obviously your store, great, mm-hmm. but do you recommend people seek out more like a local shop? Are they more likely to have good quality, real stuff?
Thing is, I feel like, right now, once again, our industry is changing. Like sometimes I think that things slip through. I mean, we're all human beings, you know what I mean? So maybe they buy, and I just think that the more, and that's why we want to be more in tune to looking for the striations, sometimes people think the imperfections, actually the imperfections are what's real as we human beings. We all have imperfections. We're looking for, when things look a little too perfect, that's maybe more of when unless you're talking like high caliber gemology, but then you're going to pay a lot of money. But if you're looking at some of these, not as expensive, and it looks like almost too perfect,
right?
Maybe that's just a question mark. I'm not saying that it's not. I'm just saying that question it in your intuitive self.
Yep, totally. Okay. And I want to ask each of you, what is your favorite go-to ritual that you practice?
Well, for me personally, I have been working a lot with blue lace agate, which is actually what I have in my hands right now. And I really like to put it, again, on my throat because I came into this earth with a very raspy voice. And again, trying to speak the truth and really, that's really my journey, I feel, right now.
Yep.
So I've been working a lot with placing that on my 5th chakra.
Cool. Great.
And I just really am into rose quartz, although you would be like, so I often wonder, like, I really wish I was in more of like a more, not such a kind of a more eccentric stone, I would have all this access to all these things. Why am I not doing something? But I like rose quartz right now because I like to hold it over my heart and just say, I am enough. And just kind of have that resonance over my heart and feel that energy. I feel like that simple act, whether I do it right before bed, I could lay there and I don't have to have a lot of energy going out. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
and it just feels really good. I really like to keep it really simple and easy so that I do it. It's just like, take the heart-shaped crystal, put it over my heart. I am enough. Maybe read a couple pages of a book before I go to bed.
Right.
There it is. Bam.
There you go. Totally.
Feels good.
Totally. And this might be an impossible question for you guys, but if you were like on a desert island and you could only take one crystal with you, which one would you choose?
I think I would probably do selenite.
Yeah. Why?
Well, I actually wear it every single day, and I actually sleep with it because, like Heather puts the heart on her chest, I sleep with the rod on my chest because it just gives me the best night's sleep.
Right.
And because of its energy of being liquid light, I like to have that energy around me. Just, I don't know, it's very calming. Right. And I'm a high-strung person to begin with, so helps keep me a little bit less high-strung.
Totally.
And I think for me, it would be quartz crystal because I love the clarity of quartz crystal. It's a constant reminder. You don't have to know anything about crystals. You could look at it and go, oh, that's what clarity looks like. Yeah. I want to be that. Sure. And I feel like if I was on an island, I want to make sure I'm really clear so I could tap into the trees and the animals and survival mode. Yeah.
Right. It's probably a better idea than selenite. I might be sleeping. Could you gather for me?
You guys would be together. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. There it is. We got it covered.
Totally. Okay, now let's say someone is walking into a crystal shop with every type of crystal you could imagine. How do you recommend that they pick out what is best for them?
Well, that happens to us all the time at our office. So people will say, this is what I'm looking for. What should I pick? And we're like, we don't know what you should pick. Right. What are you resonating with? What are you drawn to? Right. Like with Heather, is it the sparkle? Is it the color? Is it the shape? Is it the size? Right. All of that means something. And you know best what you should have.
Yeah, because, okay, why even get into crystals? I mean, honestly, like really. Right. One of the biggest lessons or the thing we're supposed to learn is to trust ourselves.
Yes.
I mean, really, they're the tool to be like, oh my God, I am in a room with 1,000 things. Yep. Who am I and what do I like? Yep. Now, for some people, they're like, I'm out of here. I'm done with this crystal stuff. Okay. And then some people will go in, and then that's when the work begins, right? It's not the crystal. It's you with your mind going, oh my God, do I know myself? Do I like that? Should I listen to the store owner? Right. Does that feel right? You know what? Does somebody know me better than I know myself? All that goes on in your head. And the crystals, that's the work. Yeah. It's not the crystal you pick. It's your process of what it took to get you to pick your crystal.
Yep. Totally. Now, do you guys see a difference between, in the book, you go into a little bit like the different shapes and their different purposes and all of that. Do you have any recommendations for people getting loose stone versus like wearing a crystal? Does that matter? Is it better to like wear it on your body or in a different place on your body?
Well, okay, so I'm in current recovery of being a crystal addict. So I'm still in the process. I'm healing.
Yes.
And from being somebody who is an addicted personality type to crystals that I'm now healing, I think it's best to stick with one.
Uh-huh.
So if you're going to wear it, if that's the modality you're going to do, wear it. Mm-hmm. If you want to have one that you're going to have in your hand, or you don't want to have everyone know about, or you want to have it at your house, work with one. Right. It's kind of like when you meet a new person. Spend time with that person. You don't, when you're trying to get to know somebody, you don't like invite that person and then 5 of your other bestest of friends.
Right.
Take the time, because that way you'll know what it feels like, and you'll know, more importantly, what you feel like when you have it with you.
Yes, and like the results. Yeah.
You know? Mm-hmm. And you got to program it, and you got to clear it, and there's a whole other stream of things you got to do.
Right.
But the thing is that if you have so many, it's hard to really get to know what is the right one for you until you get to know it individually.
Yes. Okay, here's a question that just popped into my mind that I'm so glad I just remembered, because I'm dying to ask you guys. This has happened to me. It's happened to multiple people I know. You have a ring, you have a pendant, whatever. The crystal just flies out.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
The crystal has absorbed enough. You have to remember, this is a rock, okay? Yeah. I mean, a stone.
Right.
It can only take so much. Like with hematite will absorb energy, and then at some point it breaks.
Right.
Because it's like, I can't take anymore.
Right.
Put me back to the earth, man. Right. You humans are just too much. I can't do it.
I'm out of here.
So, yeah, exactly. So, they're sponges.
Yes.
They emit. And at some point, it's just enough, And so that's really a sign like, hey, maybe that's not, you got to put that either buried in the ground or take that off for a while. I've done my work. Send me to the spa.
Yes.
I'm exhausted here.
Put me in a sage bath for 5 years.
Yeah,
and maybe I'll come out.
Dig me in the dirt for a while. You humans.
Totally.
Okay. Yeah.
Totally. I love it. So let's say someone is wearing like a rose quartz pendant all day, every day. How often do you recommend that they cleanse it with how you guys talk about? Every day?
You can just feel like you might not want to put it on the next day because you're not attracted to it. It feels heavy. So it would be a good time to cleanse it. If you're around a lot of people wearing that piece, that's another good sign.
Right.
But once again, if you're wearing something, I definitely am into this committing for a period of time.
Yeah.
Because what happens is that there will be days where you're like, this feels heavy and I don't like it anymore. Well, that's when we don't want to put it on the nightstand and run away from it. Because
totally.
That's running away. Yeah. That's when we're like, okay, well, I got some stuff I got to deal with here. Mm-hmm. And it's not the crystal changing your life. It's bringing things up to the surface. Once again, as we talked about earlier, it's time to talk about it. It's time to address. It's time to not put the blinders on and act like everything's okay.
Right.
Definitely, like what Timmi said, cleanse it, purify it. But this is the work.
Work through whatever's coming up.
This is what we want to have happen. We want to clear it out so we don't have it anymore.
Right.
In our energy field.
Right.
So, once again, for some people, it might be just a pretty heart. And for some people, it might help them to mend a broken heart.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, because then it becomes the question of, you're attracted to rose quartz, you learn about it. Why is that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, so delve into why you were drawn to that crystal and what is it in you that needs to heal.
Right. And you'll go to exactly where you are at that point. Mm-hmm. For some people, they'll ask 2 questions. For some people, they'll ask 30. Right. Does that make sense? Yeah. For some people, they won't ask any, and they're all okay because it's where you are at that point.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Now, I want to go through quickly, if you guys can give us a brief summary of your book. I want to talk about the book a little bit. What inspired you guys to write it? How do you recommend people use it? Because it's different, but I want you guys to describe it.
Well, okay. Well, this is how I'll start. Because I read every single crystal book on the market and loved every single one of them because I just love crystals. Right. The point of this book was to write it diary style. So whenever I used to study with people and still do, they never gave me the answer. They'd always tell me a story. Like that's what the indigenous people, they would go on about like the wind and the trees. And I'd be like, well, then what happened? And they're like, the story's over now. So it's like, it's kind of like, for me, I wanted to read a book about like, okay, so you're financially strapped. What'd you do to get out of it? Like when I talk to people, oh my God, you couldn't get pregnant? How did you get pregnant? What happened? What diet plan? So I want to hear real life stories and then a real life solution. Yep. And so when Timmi and I wrote this book, it was like, okay, are we going to like play it really politically correct, or are we going to do it in a way that we're going to serve people? Timmi talked about her and her husband breaking up and how they came back together. Because you know what? A lot of people go through things like that. Right. And then how do they heal that relationship? Right. So every chapter takes a real life story and goes into a recipe. So ours is like a crystal recipe book. Mm-hmm. And it's like, here's what happened to us. And here's what the formula that we learned from Tony Robbins. If you follow a formula, and you will get a result. Right. But you have to be consistent, and you have to. This is not like ours is not a spell book. That's not my specialty. Right. Although there are many people that do that, and God bless them, and they have different specialties. Right. Our specialty is how to use a crystal as a tool in the easiest way possible to get a result. That's really what this book's about. And along the way, you're going to hear some really good stories, more dirt on Timmi than me in this book. and just kidding. But what we tried to do is be very authentic, where it was like you're reading a crystal book about a real life, two real people, and how they're navigating life. They're not the experts. They're in the journey with everybody. Right.
Totally.
Our journey's unfolding just like yours, and it still is. And I think the great thing about the book is the pictures are beautiful, number one. So if you just want to look at the pictures, great. But you don't have to read it from end to end. You could go in and go, hey, I'm interested in trying to get pregnant. Yep. Mending a broken heart. I'm interested in money. Go to those chapters when you need to go use them.
Yes. And what's kind of interesting is we always thought, oh, this is our demographic. But we have more teenagers and little kids. Like, I'm blown away. These kids are so into crystals. Unlike maybe old, our generation, like, explain to me why. Can you please tell me the science here? And little kids are like, I don't really care. I like it. And I want to do that. And that's a book I want. So we
want the sparkle.
We have sold tons of our book to teenagers, which I never in a million years would have thought that would have been a marketplace. Yes. Because they're interested and they're very open to the spiritual world. They're so much more progressive than I think we need to give them a lot more credit. They're open.
Well, I've read that from like an energetic perspective. That generation, is just they came in more open to that stuff.
They get it. They totally get it.
And I noticed that even like in my practice with the kids I work with, like you were speaking to, the older generation might be like, "Tell me the science on why mind-body medicine can get you well," And kids don't care. They know they feel a little off, and they're like, "I need an appointment." Mm-hmm. They know they feel better. They don't understand what's happening, but they do.
Right.
Yeah. So it's very cool. That's awesome. When you guys, the process with writing and publishing a book, what would you recommend to people that are looking to do that for themselves?
Well, we got lucky, and one of the things that we teach people is how to manifest. And so one of the things that for me personally, I've always wanted to write a book. And we got lucky because Hay House Publishing came to us and offered us a book deal. So we got lucky in that part. We didn't have to do that part, which is, that's hard. You know what I mean? Definitely, I think that what Timmi and I learned through the process, once again, going back to the whole thing of business, at least from my perspective, was we thought that the book was going to be one way. And had we stuck to the guns and not listened to the intuition and listened to what we were, let it come through us, it would have been a different book. Totally. So if you're writing a book, allow it to come through you instead of having your ego be so attached to it that it's you.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Don't be so firm set on your plan of what your expectation is of it to come out like. And absolutely. Okay, I want to know from both of you, what does your morning routine look like?
Well, it's not that much, but it actually, I end up getting up, and what I've really tried to do this year is not go right to my phone and go to an electronic. So I'm more about doing some breath work. Maybe it's a meditation time for me, do some readings, a little journaling, and that's really it.
Nice.
Mine is a very intense program right now. As of last year, had you talked to me last year, I would have been like, oh, it's one thing.
Right.
I'm doing a 40-day prosperity reprogramming right now. So it's an hour process.
Wow.
And so, and because obviously, I really want to get into those crevices right now. And I like to blend. I'm working with pranic healing, Kundalini. I like to bring in one of my friends is a Shaolin monk. He taught me some breathing techniques. So it is breath work, mantra, and movement. And so that whole process takes about an hour. And so it's a real reset. So I'm having to get up quite early. I don't know if that's working well for the bags under my eyes that are now happening, but hopefully after 40 days, I'm maybe, really looking sparkly on the gold front.
Right.
Because I have kids and, they get up for school and they don't really care that mommy has an hour, 40-day ritual. They're like, it's up for breakfast.
Right.
So, so I got to get up early.
I love it. That's awesome. From both of you, who is one person that inspires you?
I don't know. Right now, I think it's because I've been with my kids. I have one son that's in college and then one that's going to be going in about a year and a half or whatever he's going to end up doing.
Right.
But it's interesting. Just like Heather was saying, we could be doing all of this stuff. They don't really care. Right. They're the most humbling people. Like when you walk in the door and you've had this amazing day and maybe the book just published and they're like, hey, what's for dinner? You know what I mean? So I look at them as being someone that inspires me to keep me in the norm and not really think.
Right.
I don't know. It brings me back into what is real, I guess, is what's important.
Yeah. Keeps you more grounded.
So on New Year's Day, I went to a puja, and I'm not a Hindu or Indian, although I seem like I'm very gravitated to a lot of that stuff. So anyway, when I went there, one of the takeaways I had when I left that day was how service-oriented this group was. And it was more about what more can I do? What more can I give to my community? How can I help people more? Right. And my takeaway was that day is that if I could look more outside of the me and get into this we culture of how can I serve more and what can I do more? That was really, I think, I don't want to say it's one person, it's more of a consciousness of being more of service, especially this year.
Right. Totally. I love that.
Well, and that's something we want to bring in with our team too, because it has to start here too.
Sure.
Energy.
Absolutely. Okay. And then I just have written down, so many people today are so overwhelmed with their work life, family life, things they're processing, the political situation, right? Everything. How could embracing ritual and crystals into your daily life help you feel more balanced?
Well, I know for me, just by working with them and kind of even with the morning ritual, it seems like I've filled up my energy tank. No one can ever take that away from me. I've got that energy to move on throughout the day. There's going to be good and bad things that happen, and I'm going to have the energy to hopefully deal with them. But I feel like you've got to have some kind of strategy, formula that you do in order to give yourself the energy to get through the day. Because I know that I've been through days where I walk out at 8 o'clock and I'm like, I'm already taking a reserve from tomorrow.
Right.
And that's not going to be a good day.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. I look at life as that's life. I mean, especially our lives today. I mean, it's almost designed to make us. And when you're talking about these people, I'm like, oh my God, I think I'm one of them too. I'm like, oh my God, I'm one of the people. So what I do as being one of those people, because this is life now, right? It's moving fast. We've got to be this and going here and all these things. When I discord and cut myself from all that chaos and know that all I can do right now is be here and be enough, and I could just show up right now as my best self possible, because that's all going to be there. You know what I mean? It's not changing. It's our world, right? Yeah. But how can I show up, at least at this point, and not get caught up in the fear and the worry and all this stuff I got to just start with me and penetrate that outward. Yeah. All we could do is start with ourselves, right? That's the change. Remember when Gandhi, it's like we are the change, but we gotta start with ourselves first. I mean, I could divert myself and start looking at everybody else and this and that, but then I'm not really doing anything. Right. I'm diverting.
Right.
So trying to being more present, which is really not the most easy thing on the planet, but it's like what if it really was that simple, which I think it is. And it's that hard.
Totally. I think we make it a lot harder than it needs to be.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I want to ask you guys, do you have an exciting new project or venture? Like, what is next for Energy Muse? What's coming up?
Well, okay, so we try to keep it really exciting at all times, because as business people, you got to be excited about something, right? And motivated. So next year, Energy Muse is launching. We have a whole new online courses that we're going to be doing, an online subscription program where we're going to take people through different crystals, teach them rituals, but really teach. There's this whole new thing I'm into. It's one crystal, 365 days to transforming your inner self. Wow. Because how can we take one thing and have it be something that we can hold in our hand or work with to transform and learn about ourselves? So basically what we're doing is we have an online community, a secret Facebook community that, people could go to, but we're listening to people and they're like, we want to learn this and will you teach this? And there's a lot of girthy content there that we're going to be rolling out next year.
Nice. Do you mean later this year, or next year?
Yeah, this year. Well, I would say it's going to come around more in April. And we've because we're working with Hay House, doing more things with them and being more integrated with that culture as well. So
community.
We're excited. Yeah,
that's great. I mean, they need someone like you guys.
Hopefully, we're coming. Yay!
Yeah, I mean, it's just so different. As far as I know, like, I follow Hay House's stuff and listen to their radio all the time. They don't have crystal people.
Yeah, they do.
I know. Oh, well, yeah. So hopefully we'll get
not a lot. It's like a lot of self-help stuff, a lot of angel stuff, but you guys are unique in that way, so it's very cool.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah,
we're going to let them know that you said that. I'm going to have them listen to this.
Tell me. I said. They need Energy Muse.
Yay!
All right. Okay, so I'd love for you guys to let us know, where can our listeners find you, your website, your social media?
So our website is energymuse.com, and we are also on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
And I'm personally, this is Heather trying to get my Instagram going because I want to have more people know about our subscription program. So I'm Heather_Askinose.
Nice.
As well.
Okay, great. And so the listeners know, I will leave all of this stuff in the notes for the show. They are also very generously offering a promo code, which will be MBS, Mind, Body, Spirit, but just the letters MBS20 for 20% off at their store for all the listeners. So that's awesome. You guys can use that. So please follow them. Pick up their book, Crystal Muse. If anything, it is a beautiful coffee table book as well. I have it out and everyone is like, the images are so beautiful. So
thanks.
Highly recommended. Check these guys out. Follow them. They've got great stuff going on. Any last minute tidbits you guys want to add or anything?
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks for being open. Thanks for being a trailblazer of the future and getting this energy out and doing what you do.
Totally.
Yay! Thanks so much.
Of course.